Hi, everybody. I'm Rogers Healy, the host of Rogers That, a podcast dedicated to selling without selling out. And I feel like a sellout right now because I'm sitting. And I tell you that to where the person we have today has not just revolutionized the way that we work, he's changed the game. And he's done it in a way with intention, with integrity, with character, and with a ton of personality. He was 2021 CEO of the Year for D Magazine, but he's way more than that. Most importantly to me, he is a mentor. He is someone that inspires me, and he's a friend. It's Jason McCann. He is the co-founder and CEO of Very, formerly known as Veridesk, much like Prince was an artist known as Prince, and then went to Assemble, then went back to Prince. But Jason is the Prince, the self-proclaimed Prince of furniture, and more than furniture. Jason's company, we got introduced to them a few years back, and you literally cannot go 2 seconds in our office without seeing a piece of furniture or even a coaster from our friends at Very. So I'm a big fan, I'm an endorser, and Jason, we're grateful that you're here today. So thank
Rogers, you've warmed my soul right there. Thank you so much, and our friendship means everything. So excited to be here today.
Well, cool. We're glad that you're here, and I know that business is a huge part of your life, and it guides you, but why don't you give us a little bit of background, maybe what got you to where you're at today, but what was your journey to entering the world of business and absolutely turning it upside down?
Yeah, it was, fun growing up in Galveston Island, just south of here. And so, the first entrepreneur I knew was my mom. She owned her own hair salon down on the island. So I worked there for her, and that was my first job when I was 10 to 12.
You might be the only person to glamorize the islands of Galveston. We're not, like, for all y'all that are watching it and listening, the islands of Galveston would be like saying the casinos of Shreveport.
That's right.
But anyway, it was a good pitch.
The beautiful beach is just south of Houston. So, if you're down in H-Town, it's the closest beaches.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, back to the journey. Your mom was your first entrepreneurial hero.
Yeah, and just it was great to see her and experience that and work in her hair salon. And she said, I think at 14 or 15, I had to go get a real job. And so she drove me around town, and I ended up working at a beach chair and umbrella company doing beaches.
Were you a cabana boy?
No, well, it's not as glamorous as that in the early 80s, but so setting up beach chairs and umbrellas down there on the island. Eventually opened up my own, leased a beach, bought my own chairs and umbrellas.
Bought your own
chairs and umbrellas.
Really?
And I leased a little parcel of beach, and I got insurance, and so I learned at a very early age. I had that entrepreneurial bug in me, and so that was a lot of fun just to experience that.
So as a teenager, essentially, you were doing things that most people well into their 40s and 50s will never conceptualize, as you were leading people, you're running people, but you realized that maybe one of your gifts early on was a gift of strategy and structure.
Yeah.
Right? And was that just something that you had a light bulb moment? I still don't have that light bulb moment. I have to find people that are way more structured and systemized than me.
No, I think it's more, sitting around the dinner table, talking to my mom about running a business, hiring people, talking, firing, going through growing pains, as people would even work for her and ultimately go out and start their own salon or business. And she said, that's actually a good thing. I'm sort of educating the next generation of entrepreneurs. This is literally me growing up as a 10, 12, 13-year-old, sitting around the dinner table, having those kinds of conversations. One of her first employees was gay. One of her first employees was African American. And I just assumed it was normal for a mom to run a company. And so those were just things I grew up with as a kid. And so starting a business just seemed natural. And so it was a great opportunity to try things and make mistakes and learn.
And to have people that relied on you, especially at a very young age. So what was the next level, the next step? So you had a company.
I decided, growing up in Galveston, I thought I wanted to be in the hospitality industry because I didn't quite know anything else. And so I studied at the University of Houston, has the Hilton College. So I got a degree in hotel restaurant management, actually went back to the island, partnered with the gentleman that owned Yaga's. And at the time, Yaga's... The clothing company.
No way.
So
Yaga versus Stussy was a great debate in the 80s and 90s.
Stussy and Massimo. It was kind of they're all three of them. It was like a three-legged race.
Enter Z Cavarici and Gerbeau.
That's right.
I was such a Yaga fan. Wow,
yes.
You're going to take me back. It was like kind of Rastafarian chic.
Little Jamaica Me Crazy, Mobetta Threads.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're feeling it.
But listen, you might not. I'm from Corpus Christi, where you had Yaga. We had TNC Surf and Skate, and you might not remember that. But anyway, back to the journey. So
I partner up with Mike Dean and Alan Flores, and they actually owned the restaurant Yaga's. So you had the clothing line, and then one of the brothers had the restaurant. And
I had no idea.
Had a reggae bar, and they had live reggae bands on the weekends. We partnered up and opened one in Houston. and this was in the early 90s.
Yagas.
Yagas.
So this was peak Yaga. And again, y'all, this is like, I don't even know, it'd be like before Ed Hardy and before, like you had to have, if you didn't have Yaga and if you didn't have Stussy and you were a 10 to 16-year-old, you couldn't get anywhere.
That's right.
So, wow, you actually were part owner of Yaga.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we partnered up and opened up one on Richmond Avenue. So at the time, that was the hottest area of Houston. And so you had the original Joe's Crab Shack was on that street, the original Rick's Cabaret, the largest Gold's Gym in Houston were all on that street, the Sam's Boat, which is still there, the Yucatan liquor stand. It was the hottest nightclub street in town, restaurants. Wow. And so we did that for about 2.5 years. It's in the Rockets' heyday. So when Akeem Olajuwon and they won back-to-back championships.
Vernon Maxwell.
Yes.
Otis Thorpe. That was
That was a great chapter for me. We did that for about 2.5 years, and one day I just decided the nightclub and restaurant industry was not my calling, and so we sold out to our partners, and I started to work on my master's in entrepreneurship.
What are you,
and
22
marketing.
at this point?
Yeah, 23, 24. Yeah,
good Lord.
Yeah, and so it was awesome. It was a great chapter, but it just, I think sometimes you wake up and you recognize something's not your calling. You worked really hard.
Yeah.
I wasn't very successful. I was modestly successful. But we learned a lot. We worked hard, and those were the things we tried to figure out. And so as I was working on my master's, I'd reached out to my high school sweetheart because I said, I'm getting out of the nightclub industry. Do you want to have dinner? And she was up here in Dallas teaching, and she came back. And
were you living in Houston still?
I was still in Houston at the time, and so it was great to reconnect with her. And I ended up in the POG business because somebody that used to work with me owed me a little bit of money.
POGs?
POGs, the round milk caps, yes, the slammers.
Wow.
And so suddenly I didn't know anything about POGs. I didn't know anything about consumer products. And so I started air freighting POGs on Continental Airlines to Houston, would go pick them up in cargo vans, put them into smaller packages, if you can picture this, into quart-sized bags of POGs. And then I had vans driving all over Texas selling POGs to baseball card shop owners and kiosks in the malls. And I ended up deciding I needed to create my own product to control my own thing. So I created a board game called Nip It, which was like Tiddlywinks, and you remember that game, which is like launching POGs. And I basically went to a Toys R Us store. I took apart a Monopoly game, figured out that it's a bookbinder, and a Heidelberg press made the box, and a launching pad was a mouse pad. And I literally created a kid's board game.
What was it called?
Nip It. And so picture Tiddlywinks. When I showed it to kids, they said, oh, it's like Nip It. We're like launching our POGs. And so overnight, I've got 5,000 of these games. I worked with the Institute for the Blind to assemble them. So I couldn't figure out, I was making them in my apartment trying to assemble all these parts. And the Institute for the Blind, I put on a blindfold and we taught blind people how to assemble these games. And it was a fantastic learning thing. And I started selling board games. And I'm going to school full time, married my high school sweetheart. Think I'm on cloud 9, and suddenly sales aren't doing as well. And there was a toy company in Houston. I buzzed on the door just like you always do, and I'm knocking on the door. I just want to meet this toy company. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how to sell Toys R Us and Walmart. Maybe this toy company can help me.
While a newlywed, while a full-time grad student.
Full-time grad student. I got my box of games, and I...
At 24, and y'all that are still paying attention, this is now your third company, or fourth. Well, that's your third company to have control or leadership over at an early age. Anyway, sorry. So Nip It.
So I sit in the lobby for over an hour, and I'm just waiting because they said, somebody might come. And all of a sudden, they said the president's he wants to meet you. And so Rick Knights takes me to his office, and it's got all this cool big decor and a giant desk, and we're talking. And he goes, did you create this board game? And I'm telling the whole crazy story. And he said, POGs are dead. You need to sell everything you have and come work here. I said, no, I'm going to be a Parker Brothers Titan. I got this all figured out. And literally I walked out of there. I couldn't sell a POG to save my life. So the hotter things get, the faster they die in fads. And what I just didn't realize was POGs was a fad. And it literally ended. So I wrote, this is back in the days, I'm literally writing Rick letter, calling him, leaving voicemail saying,
Rick, the toy CEO?
The CEO of DSI Toys. And I said, I'll do any job you have. And so he, was kind enough to take me in as an intern. He taught me how to negotiate with factories in China, sell Walmart, QVC, and I was learning retail. And then in 1999, so the company went through an IPO. I got to experience
What was the company called?
Called DSI Toys.
Okay.
And so unfortunately, they went through an IPO, which is very challenging for a toy company to do at the time. They were just too small. And so I learned a lot of things from them and was looking to do another company. And another gentleman was looking at buying the company and investing in it and decided not to, but he and I connected, and it was Dan Flaherty from Gemmy Industries. And Dan had created a...
Dallas guy?
Dallas guy.
Yeah.
So Dan had created a company called Gemmy, Gemmy. They're known today for the big mouth Billy Bass fish.
Yes.
And
what did he do with Shannon Wynn? And, sorry, no,
yeah.
Keep going. No.
Yeah. I don't know Shannon, but so and so all those inflatables that you see on people's yards for Halloween and Christmas, really LED lighting that you see at a Lowe's, Home Depot, or Walmart. That's what Gemmy is known for today. When he and I met in 1999, I flew up here to Dallas. And he and I were talking, and he was talking about recruiting to work with Gemmy, and I said, no, I think I'm going to do something else.
He wanted you to go work there.
And he said, let's do a .com business together and sell Christmas and Halloween product online. This is 1999, basically the gold rush of the .com era. And so overnight, Dan and I partner up and create iCelebrate.com, and we're going to sell Christmas and Halloween product online. I don't know anything about the .com business. I don't know anything about Christmas and Halloween, but overnight we go for it and build a business selling millions of dollars worth of Christmas and Halloween product online. This is 1999, 2000.
How did you get the inventory? You just went and...
So we started negotiating with the factories that make the lights and make the ornaments, and I didn't know anything about it. A gentleman that was working at Michael's craft store was the top Christmas person in the industry. I convinced him to come work with me and join me on the journey. We got up to about 75 employees. And all of a sudden, we started burning through too much cash. I didn't build a profitable business. So I was sitting there upside down every month financially, and I hadn't really raised enough money. And so suddenly I've got people writing, and this is the .com craze. Everybody's writing $50,000 checks, and everybody wants to be a part of the .com craze. I end up in New York City, and I'm sitting in my Joseph A. Banks 2-for-1 suits, nothing fancy like the Mizzen in Maine.
Listen, the thing about Joseph A. Bank is now, they're going to buy one Joseph A. Bank, get a desk from Very, a PlayStation, and unlimited water. So the greatest promotions of all time. But this is actually from Hong Kong, and I look like a lima bean. But
you look great.
Anyway.
So I was up at a meeting with JP Morgan Chase, and one of the big, and they're all up there, and I basically, a gentleman pulled us aside and was talking. He said, the .com thing's going to bust. It's over.
POGS 2.0.
2.0. And overnight, we were bust, and I had to go in and lay everybody off and tell them that I'd failed and that we were bust. And it was literally the darkest period of my life. I had a 6-month-old, so Jake's now 22. So I've got a 6-month-old. I'm broke. Dan had the year Big Mouth Billy Bass Fish across the street at Gemmy. And he had some inflatables, a pumpkin and a Grinch and Santa and a snowman. And I was licking my wounds.
Were you full time? That was everything you were doing was.
All it was I
Dan?
Celebrate. Yeah, Dan and I were partners in I Celebrate, and so I had gone bust in this business, and Dan had a separate company called Gemmy.
Wow.
And he had done all those pumpkins you see at Michael's craft stores and great stuff out there. And so Dan said, "Hey, would you help me?" Just kind of think about it. I had a chance to go work with Dan at Gemmy, and really became, when you lose a lot of money with somebody, you learn a lot about them. And Dan was gracious enough to give me a chance over there and sort of get back up and kind of get my confidence back.
It's a real thing as a business owner.
Yeah,
I've been through a few valleys, and it's hard, man. You got to force yourself to get out of bed, and then if you find somebody that gives you some kind of vigor, it's a different
so we
relationship.
Connected on a very cool level, and I thought I would just help him for a couple of years. I fell in love with Gemmy and the people and the team, and became president in 2009, and then really elevated our relationship. And so Gemmy today is the leading producer of Halloween and Christmas out there for Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart. So great stuff, and it's all hitting the stores right now, so they're all thrilled. But it's
Wow.
And then in 2012, Dan was standing at a cardboard box with back pain, and I walked in his office, and he's standing there, and I was kind of razzing him because we're friends, and I was like, "What's going on?" He goes, "I got back pain. I can't figure out what's wrong. My doctor told me to stand up more if I feel better, but I got to do something." And so Rosemary was online trying to order him a standing desk and couldn't find one of these awful boxes.
Was there
show
even
up.
such thing?
No, not really. There was Some giant ones that would show up would be like $3,000. There were these contraptions that you would bolt onto your desk. And Dan said, I've got an idea for a product. And so I grabbed David Patton, one of our designers, and the three of us sat there, and Dan described what became the first Veridesk.
No way.
And so David was sketching and Dan was talking, and we started to, okay, let's see if we can make a prototype and figure this thing out.
Was there really a competitor at the beginning? Was there somebody that was doing it that you?
No, nobody had figured out just a simple product that could go on top of your existing desk and literally lift up and then go back down when you wanted to. And so we started working on the prototypes, and we typically do our production in Asia. And so we were working on our Halloween and Christmas line. Dan and I are flying on a plane together overseas, and we typically don't fly together, don't sit together. It just, divine intervention. And we're sharing a Wall Street Journal back and forth. And in the Wall Street Journal, Dr. Levine from the Mayo Clinic says, sitting is the new smoking. And we're like, this is a sign from God.
Wow.
So we land, we're working on our Halloween and Christmas. We see the first prototypes of what became the Veridesk. And it was rickety and wobbly like a newborn, so maybe ugly to some people, but beautiful to us. And we were off and running.
No way. I don't know if I've ever told you this, and I want you to meet him before you go, but randomly, that first product that came out was like the black kind of, which you all still have a version of it. When did that actually come out? Was it 2010?
2013,
so
2012, 2013.
I'm legitimately confident that up here, I'll show you, I have one of the first ones ever, because one of your very first models is one of our agents, and he's here, he's on staff now, but he gave me one because I would complain about, being, at the time I was 30 and I had a bad back, and he gave this to me. I was like, what is this? And then I was flying and I saw it in American Way magazine. So maybe you can autograph it and I'll put it in a shadow box. But I saw it and I was such a fan, and it was such a, I don't know if the word disruption is a fair word to use, but it was one of those things where it's like, it was so crazy that it worked. And I remember it was a conversation starter for me. And I would have it in my office, and I had one of those big mahogany executive desks because, the only thing bigger than my ego was my desk at the time. And people walk in and be like, what is that? Be like, well, let me tell you about my Veridesk. And I felt like I was, kind of a champion for the brand before, it exploded differently. But what was the journey to make your company literally an office hold name? Yeah,
absolutely. So, our journey started, we had gone bust in the .com business and jokingly swore we'd never do another .com. But we turned on a little website. It was $99, a 3D cart website. Turned it on. We did a few Google ads. Veridesk. And it started to sell a few. And we're like, okay, just small bets. Again, treated it like a side hustle. We've got Jemmy, we're running. This is just a side hustle. Started to show it around town. Said, okay, who has a lot of people sitting? Somebody knew somebody, Pedro, at Verizon, and he ran the call center over there. Oh, that'd be a perfect company to go show it to. They've got a lot of people, sitting desks would be perfect. So we drive over, get an appointment. He's kind enough to take our meeting through networking here in the Dallas area. And so we walk in, and I've got a beautiful sample, got our Wall Street Journal, got David and Dan.
The one that said, sitting is the new smoking.
And I was laying there the night before, and I said, oh my God, I'm talking to the president of the call center division. I got to have like a presentation. Like, what am I going to actually say? And I'm laying there. And I said, it just came to me. I said, I can create a happier, healthier, more productive workspace with this product. That's what I believe we're doing.
So it's kind of your first pitch ever?
First pitch ever.
To Verizon.
Not
bad.
Not a bad. It's a good thing to be in Dallas.
Yeah.
You got great companies to practice on.
Wow.
So we walk in, we get the meeting. I'm a little nervous. It's game day, right? You get in there, you suit up. Not really. I'm pretty casual. So we roll in, we show the product, and he goes, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. He goes, let me get my ergonomist and my head of HR. And I go,
can you please?
I don't even know what an ergonomist is.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah.
So I look over to David. I go, what's an ergonomist? He goes, oh, the guys that help you with your seating and your posture, carpal tunnel syndrome. They've got people that study that and help people the way they stand and work at these larger companies. Okay, great. The gentleman comes in, the head of HR comes in, and they're like, oh, this is it. I mean, some of the top reasons that people miss work is back pain. So I'm making notes, right? As you're listening, I'm learning. The ergonomist talked about making slight tweaks to the product. Again, being in growth mindset, David's taking notes, and we're talking about, it's easier to lift and you pull forward. The head of HR is like, recruiting and retention is a big deal. If we create a healthier workspace, we're going to recruit better talent. how much are they? We want to try some, which is the magic words. And of course, we didn't quite know what our pricing was, so we had to flip it back and say, what are you willing to invest in your employees? And they were like, oh, these might be X price. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll come back to
you. So you literally
price.
just had a prototype?
Yeah, we had our first 10 samples because we were using them in our building and just trying them out.
Wow.
And so we're just showing but it looked like a production piece. I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
So our second meeting, I said, well, I need to get feedback on the product. So we reached out to the Container Store because they make product and they're cool and they're a great culture.
Based in Dallas too.
Let's show it to them. So somebody that one of the executives over there was kind enough to take a meeting. We walk in, talk, and the culture, the food, the people, they check every box. And so great places to work. And we slide it out, show them the product. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is great. Let me just show you around a little bit. We actually make our own office furniture, which I didn't realize when they bought Alpha. They started making office furniture. They make their own standing desks. And
Container Store did.
The Container Store did. And I walk into this office and there's standing desks in the space. And I have this moment of panic where I'm like, is it over? So as I walk into the Container Store and I'm standing there, I'm like, oh my God, is it over? Like, is it a bust? Like,
because you thought that somebody had already beat you to the moon.
Is this like Pogs and the .com thing? Is it just their standing desks? They said, no, we love your product because it's adjustable in height. If we have our permanent standing desk, somebody like you is working in the space today. If I'm coming in there tomorrow, I need it adjusted 4 or 5 inches lower. Suddenly somebody's got to come in. It's a major ordeal. We want to buy some. We want to test it with you.
And so literally, a furniture company was buying furniture from you.
Buying furniture from us to use in their office. Then what we started to recognize is the story that you were describing. Once an executive or anybody got it and they were standing up and they started to talk about it, they became an advocate, like that Trojan horse effect.
Yeah.
We were sitting there on an airplane, kind of pre-Wi-Fi, flipping a Sky Mall magazine, flipping through it because we're trapped on this tarmac for a couple hours one day. And Roger and I are passing this Sky Mall magazine back and forth. And we're like, gotta be funny as hell if we did an ad in Sky Mall magazine with somebody standing up.
He works here. It's Jeff Pollock. I swear, I'm not joking you. He's literally, okay, sorry, keep going. I have no game face with this, but he's literally here in our office.
So that's awesome. Yeah. So I got to talk to him.
No,
this is great.
No, I swear to God, he was my assistant at the time, and he's been an agent here for 13 years. He literally was the guy that was standing, and it was like, I remember where the ad was. It was in the bottom.
Yes.
It was
you're right.
Left
he's
side
our
of the page.
Yeah, he's our model.
He literally is up here right now. Free desk for everybody. Anyway, sorry, back to the story.
So we do the ad in Sky Mall Mag. So we reach out to Sky Mall. We do a 3-month ad in Sky Mall. We become the #1 selling item in Sky Mall's history.
No freaking way.
Yeah. So literally people are ripping out the page. They're like, hey, my boss just handed me this. I need to order a Veridesk. And overnight, people are buying these things. And it's going crazy. And it's an amazing thing, right? Our website's growing. We're shipping these. Sitting is the new smoking. Everybody's talking about it. And once we got one in an office, it started to happen. And what I'm a huge fan of back in the day was Zappos. Because at Zappos, if you didn't like your shoes, you just sent them back. And so I said, with Veridesk, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ship out these Veridesks, and we're going to have Zappos customer service if you don't like. And at the time, nobody did that with furniture.
And also, it was free to return, too.
And it was free to return. So I did the same thing with the Veridesk. So I was going to build trust and awareness. And so those were the things that were starting to happen as we were building the business. And so it continued to grow. And then suddenly I had people reaching out saying, do you have anti-fatigue mats? No. But I went on Amazon.
Which, was there even such a thing?
I didn't even know what it was.
So you mentioned an anti-fatigue mat. And it was interesting for me because, again, 6'5", 230 pounds, I exercise, I put a lot of wear and tear on my body. And I stood, the first 3 or 4 years I had it, I stood all day. And it was kind of my thing. And I had to learn how to go and take meetings where I was actually sitting because it was an unintentional commanding presence that I was not trying to have.
Yep.
But you almost, there was a sermon I heard a few years ago about planned obsolescence, where Apple will go and, they have the iPhone 8, knowing that the iPhone 9 is ready, but they're going to wait to release something. It's almost like you took the same model, where you're going to have people that are standing, eventually like, oh man, why miss sitting? No, you don't. Welcome the fatigue mat.
That's
so
right.
what the hell? Like, how did that even come up?
Yeah. So by having this direct relationship with our fans and having them email us and ask questions, I'm reading every single email, review, everything, because we're small, right? We're doing lots of business, but I have the bandwidth to do it at the time. Do you have anti-fatigue mats? And we didn't at the time.
So that was actually a thing.
It was a thing.
Okay.
And so I was like, so I went on Amazon. This was R&D. And I said, well, let's look up anti-fatigue mats. Well, we were selling Veridesks on Amazon. And Amazon, Jeff Bezos is smart, bundles mats with so it recommends mats. So I bought every single mat that had a good review and a bad review. And I lined them up in front of my office. And we started standing them on. And I debated, am I now going to sell other people's product through my channel of distribution to the customer, or are we going to create our own? And so the same factories that make pumpkins make the soles of running shoes for Jemmy. So we reached out to our factories. David created a better mat, and we said, we're off and running, and we became the #1 selling mat on Amazon.
What? What was it? Was it branded through Very?
Yeah, it was called, we put Veridesk on it at the time, and we called it the mat.
Unbelievable. When I think of a mat, like a fatigue mat, the first thing I think of was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I remember when like the disruption for like the kitchen floor mat was something that was like kind of jelly.
Yep.
But you brought it to the workplace where people would actually stand on it with shoes.
Yep.
Okay, and so here you are, you disrupted the desk market. And now the fatigue mat is a space owned by, Veridesk, now Very.
They started reaching out, and they were sending us photos of monitor arms jerry-rigged to our Veridesk to hold their monitors on it. And our design originally was you just set the monitors on top. And so we worked with the same factory that was making monitor arms for 3M, because they had some patents on some of their joints, and we redesigned how it could attach to our desk and created our own intellectual property there, and suddenly became one of the largest sellers of monitor arms.
People that historically wouldn't go to Veridesk for anything, now they're going there for monitor arms, which you're going to feed the beast for the fatigue mats, and then eventually get them as a client and a customer and a fan.
And everything was customer service, like raised on steroids, of having that. If anything was wrong, I fixed it immediately, listened to every review, took every call. Like overnight, we're trying to crack this code. We spun off the company to be a standalone business. So for a little while there, I was actually running both entities, and Dan was chairman of both.
Meaning Jemmy and Very.
Jemmy and Very. And so, but this one was taking off. But we had already built standing conference tables and meeting areas. We had already built walls that move. And so when we spun off the company, we moved it across the street. We leased an old building. Dan had the vision of ripping out the ceiling, doing polished concrete. But our biggest thing was to create a space that would flex and change and move as our business moved. So if we didn't put up a whole bunch of sheetrock offices, we could literally allow our space to breathe and change as our business grew and changed. And then we said, well, let's host tours. Let's have people come in. And I'm recruiting talent just like you. I had a cool coffee bar at the front. And my hospitality background, I'm playing music in the restroom, music in the lobby, creating the energy of the space. Right? We do scent machines, so you smell it. But what happened was, it was all elements we had done in our showrooms and other things, and just me connecting the dots backwards. As people walked into our headquarters, they said, I want this. And they're waving their hands around. They're talking about the culture, the energy of the space, the actual product too. And they said, I want everything. And so suddenly, we had prototype manual desks, we had electric desks, we had standing conference tables, we had walls that move, we had LED lights. Like, all of a sudden, I was expanding our product offering based upon the customers, literally the fans pulling us along saying, I want more from you, like help us get there. Yeah. Didn't know anything about the furniture industry. I learned a lot. So the furniture industry is set up like the automotive industry. You sell through a dealer network. So if you want a Herman Miller chair, if you want something, you have to buy from the Herman Miller dealer in each city. And it's all decentralized, and now they merge with, Miller Knoll, and you got Steelcase, and they've all got different dealers, just like Sewell's got, great brands under their portfolio, but if they don't happen to sell that brand, you got to buy it from somebody else. It's a very antiquated industry. And I said, we're going to build Tesla. We're going to sell direct. And we're going to build a business the same way that Sam built Walmart on everyday value, and the way that Jack Bogle built Vanguard, the way that Jim Sinegal built Costco, the way that Schultz built Starbucks. I said, we have a chance with Very to build one of the great brands out there. And so we worked with the same company that helped take Federal Express to FedEx. And we were starting to do research and saying, we're much more than a desk. Like, it's much bigger what we're building here. And so they helped us rethink our brand. So for 2 years, I'd been emailing on on register.com, this random entity that owned Vari.com, VARI.com, and he wouldn't reply, or she wouldn't reply. And one day they sent over an email and said, I'll sell you the website for $68,000. So I bought Vari.com, happened to be working with Landor about exploring taking us same way they did Federal Express to FedEx.
What year was this? 5 years ago?
This is in 2018, 2019. Five years ago, started that process. And so that was about an 18-month process for us to elevate the brand, redo the logo.
Because you weren't just a desk.
We weren't just a desk.
Let me ask the question that I probably should have led with. What does Vari mean?
So when we interviewed people and asked the question, they start to talk about flexibility and change. We think about it as creating workspaces that elevate people. Can we transform cultures, communities, and organizations and their lives by creating a space that's intentional, that flexes and changes and literally ebbs and flows with these entrepreneurs? Because every entrepreneur I talk to, their business does this. It's going up and down, and it's not this perfect, smooth, oh my God, we got a hockey stick. No, it's a grind. There's ups, downs. But Workspace never was like that. It's always cut up offices and sheetrock, and obviously the world's changed even in the last 2 years, but we always thought of it as a living, breathing thing, just like your culture. And so thinking about your business as a living, breathing thing, could space be around? And that's what Vari is.
So it's a perfect lead into a question that I'm sure everybody's wanting to know about. Historically, people that work in the office, that is, probably a big part of your target audience. 2 years ago, the world obviously is turned upside down and everybody wonders what's going on. And you're all in on a certain maybe potential way to market. How do you go and pivot on a dime, knowing, again, it's not a hockey stick. It's always like this. And then March of 20, everybody is wondering what the world is going to look like. What was your immediate reaction to COVID, to the pandemic?
We had just done the rebrand campaign. I kicked off a multi-million-dollar TV advertising thing and said, we can deliver an office in 28 days, from space planning to installation. So I do everything from space plan to your design, and I install it. Out of the gate. And we're starting, and I've hired teams in 12 different cities. I hired 50 salespeople. I put showrooms in 12 different cities, all between January and March. And I'm going full speed, and COVID hits.
January, March of 20.
And I think I'm going to be really disrupt and simplify the office furniture industry by building the Tesla of office furniture and build one of the great brands out there based upon my Landor strategy that we've got something here with Vari. And COVID hits, and I think at the time I thought, it's going to be over in a couple weeks. It's going to be over in a month. I reached out to my teams in Asia, who are about 12 weeks ahead of us, addressing COVID, and they talked about 2-meter design, face masks, thermal scanners, stickers on floors, everybody having alcohol spray, which nobody in the U.S. was really talking about. So literally, we sent our teams home on March 13th or 14th, like everybody did. We were considered an essential business, and I had an e-commerce business, so I was able to survive over those couple weeks. And during it, I transformed the entire headquarters. Our walls move, our space moves.
Physically, you transformed.
Physically. I said...
Let's put things in how many square feet we talking here?
70,000 square feet.
70,000. So that is that is not a closet we're talking.
No, it's
70,000 square feet.
70,000 square. So 50,000 square feet of office and a 25,000 square foot prototype R&D lab. So I go in and I spread everybody out. Our walls move, our power drops from the ceiling. So it was easy to do, but I pushed it, and I set up plexiglass everywhere, and I added all these walls to the space, and I bought a thermal scanner from the Taipei 101, and I put it in our lobby, and I went, and we have 2 coffee bars, and I put single serving in there, just like I had read that they were doing in Asia, and I did every single thing that Asia was doing 12 weeks ahead of what the U.S. was even talking about. So instead of wondering what the hell was going to happen, we made something happen, and we tried, and by June of 2020, we were welcoming our team back. And I reached out to customers and said, let's figure out how to help them navigate uncertainty. And thank God we were considered an essential business based here in Texas. So we were able to ship and stay open. And suddenly overnight, I changed our TV ads in a 48-hour period to say, instead of creating an office, I recreated the creative. And I said, work from home 2020, and I offered a 10% discount on our website, which I don't do because of the way Senegal built Costco and Vanguard. Like, everyday value was my thing, but I said, I got to do something to survive. And overnight, we became the number one selling electric standing desk online because everybody got home and they're crunched over a laptop on a futon or laying in bed, and they're like, oh my God, I got to do something. I'm getting tech neck. I need the same tools I've got at home. And suddenly we're shipping thousands and thousands of electric desks and chairs and mats to people's homes.
Can I call time out for a second?
Yeah.
So we shut down March 11th, 2020. And I tell you this to where, what products were you selling that you had control over in March 1st of 20? What did you guys sell? The standing desks, the stuff that you supplement your desk with, the fatigue mat, what else?
We had the walls, chairs, soft seating.
So what did you go create because of the pandemic? I tell you all this to where a conversation we were having before we started filming is we opened our office 100% because of Jason and his company. Yeah. And I wondered if any of those products that you installed here, was it something that you made out of necessity?
So the walls we already had, we just didn't typically put them up. We had plexi shields, but everybody took them down, especially millennials, because they wanted to communicate with their teammates. So suddenly we had limited runs of products that we accelerated the R&D development of because suddenly the world changed. So I did add those larger shields, those plexiglass shields. That was really the biggest product that was added. But our walls.
So you just decided to make that.
We just started to make them.
But I'm saying your brain was able to go, predict the fact that people weren't going to be home forever, but this was a thing that was going to stay, and you had to go and create a product on a whim, much like changing a commercial in 48 hours. That was something that just came to you.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, but at 2 a.m., like all CEOs, I'm laying there in the middle of the night going, what am I going to do? Like, I don't want to lose my business. I've got 300 families counting on the decisions I make. I got to do something. So what am I going to do? You got to do something. Crisis creates clarity. And so at those moments, you dig in and you make a decision and you make the best bet you can and you go for it. And whatever happens, you hit that battlefield and you've got to adjust, you adjust, but you make a decision and you make a move. And that's how I took it with the team. And my team got it and we leaned in. And so those are things that you've just got to do as a leader. And I went into daily emails with my staff, weekly Zooms, and I said, I've got to just over-communicate, because my wife, I'm laying there with Carrie and she's like, well, if you're stressed out, I can only imagine what they're thinking. Yeah. And I'm an introvert. I know you don't think that, but I'm an introvert. And I said, I got to get it out of my head and tell everybody what I'm thinking. And so I just started to share openly with my staff what was going on. And that was a very uncomfortable thing for me to personally go through.
Where you're showing vulnerability differently?
Yeah, and it was hard.
Yeah.
But I would sit there and try to encapsulate what was in my mind. And I was laying there one night, and I was struggling. I said, I've got an all hands tomorrow morning. What am I going to talk to my staff about? And it came to me when my friend in Hong Kong, when they were in the height of SARS, said, we're going to keep rowing until the wind catches our sails. He had said that 15 years ago to me. And I'm laying there, and it just came back to me while I was laying there that night. I got up and I wrote it down. And I said, team, we are going to keep rowing until the wind catches our sails. And literally that became our rallying cry. And so it was like hashtag keep rowing. The team started getting oars and bringing them in the building. And it was like, we're going to battle through this storm together. And ultimately, we're going to emerge stronger from it. The wind will hit our sails and our business will survive and hopefully thrive beyond us.
That's one of your my single biggest regret for networking in my entire career is before you sent an email to me and a handful of people a few years ago, I did not leverage LinkedIn. And I would do LinkedIn just kind of very passively on a Peloton class, adding people. But I tell you to where you mastered the art of networking in general, but I think online it's so genuine. But every once in a while I'll get somebody from you that just says keep rowing. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta keep fighting through. So that's kind of that's a Jasonism.
I'm not on social media and I try to avoid everything. But what happened was during COVID, I had CEOs reaching out to me and asking me the same question. Are y'all wearing masks? What do you do? And I started putting it on LinkedIn. And I just just said whatever was on my mind, I'm going to lean into it and talk about it.
Which is so taboo for LinkedIn.
Which is taboo for LinkedIn.
But that's what gives you a different following.
But it's authentic. And otherwise I wouldn't do it. And so it's been a win-win the way I think about it, but LinkedIn's been, yeah.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I think LinkedIn, I've always thought of LinkedIn as I am on social media on all of it. And social media is not fun to me, it's a necessity. But LinkedIn is always like Facebook for suits. So I was like, all right, how do I go and get more attention? I'm going to go post a video of me singing or something with my family. Everyone's like, why would you post? I'm like, this is my life. This is my business, and it's part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it even fair to ask what's next? I mean, here you are at still a very, very young age. You've done multiple companies that have been successful in very, very different arenas, from being a glorified cabana boy to working with Yaga to being in the plastics and illumination business, etc. What would be the next thing, whether it's within Very or something that you've always had an excitement for?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, so with Very, we will now open our third building. So we bought two, and we built our first building called Vera Space. But they're literally living, breathing ideation labs and showrooms here. So one's in Las Colinas, one's in South Lake. The third will be in Capel. We host meetings and tours there from clients from all over the country, whether they're high growth companies that are growing, whether it's building owners that are thinking about the flexibility and future of work. Literally, I'm trying to learn and crack that code with them, because I think all of us are trying to navigate what is the future. We're thinking about the impacts that we're making. We're thinking about our next generation, those types of things. And I hope that we're on the forefront of cracking the code of that, so that everybody's just not laying in their bed waiting on Netflix and Amazon to show up. It's like, what are we going to do to get people out there? We as leaders and CEOs have got to create spaces for people to meet and engage, because sometimes at an office, it's the first time you meet somebody that's got a different background than you, speaks another language, eats different food, has different experiences. This is how we bring society back together. So what are the elements there? What are the schools that we can make an impact with? The other piece of us is we're giving a lot. So we've given $6 million plus worth of furniture to nonprofit organizations. So how do we continue to give and plant those seeds back so those organizations can now be more impactful? So we're doing the big Metro Crest, right? So they're building their headquarters. We're able to show them how we built a building cheaper so that their architects and designers can learn, but also we can donate our furniture. So why can't they have the latest? So when those people are coming in, they're going to learning and education classes, getting their GEDs, learning about financial acumen, or their volunteers are working. Why can't they work with our stuff? And we can make that part of our giving back. So those are things that are exciting to me as we continue to crack this code out there.
What's your biggest struggle? Like you personally, mine is balance and being present, whether it's literally disconnecting from technology or not having that, I have a sense of urgency, which sometimes has a sense of fear right behind it. But I mean, is it hard to just stop? To find balance where you have all these things that are massive undertakings that obviously you have the gifts for, but do you find that to be a struggle?
Well, I think the last 2 years I've probably learned how to meditate, which I hadn't really done before. And so that's been a great thing for me to continue to work on, reading a lot of the Stoics and, Ryan Holiday and some of those things, those books that have helped me get moments of clarity. I've tried to address my health issues on making sure that I'm still working out and doing those things that are right for me. My words of the year, I've got two of them since I couldn't just pick one, but it was presence and gratitude. And so as I get to those moments, and you read a book like The Precious Present, and you realize that fear lives in the future and regret lives in the past. And if you can remain in the present, and the way I think about it is if you can be the eye of the storm and be calm, and no matter how crazy it is around you, and keep marching forward, everything works itself out. And those are the things that I remind myself in those moments of uncertainty and or lack of clarity is like, okay, what can I impact? What can I control? What can I not control? Make the best decision I can and keep moving. And so I look at it like that. I mean, I'm 52, so hopefully I got 48 more laps left, but that's it, right? So that's what I do. And so the impact I can make with my family and friends and with our business and their families, that's what it's about.
It's the best advice you've ever gotten.
I always say, from from an entrepreneur standpoint, if you look out there and see pain points that are out there, if those happen to collide with your passions, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for you to make money and make an impact and have a lot of fun. But you've got to see those pain points, and you've got to be passionate about what those are. Because there's a lot of things out there that have friction. I always say you can monetize pain by simplifying things. So for me, it's about we're simplifying an industry. It's like, how do you get furniture and workspace? And like we're literally pioneering a new way to think about creating a flexible workspace of the future. And we're impacting cultures and people and communities. Like, that's meaty and exciting for me. Plus, we have an opportunity to build one of the great brands. That's fun for me. For entrepreneurs, they got to decide, do they really want to be a CEO and a leader? Or do they want to work on a team and be an intrapreneur? Which there's nothing wrong with thinking about yourself as an entrepreneur, but inside of an organization. Because that's what entrepreneurs need around them, is people that think like entrepreneurs. So an intrapreneur can come in and think like an owner, act like an owner, but maybe not have all the risks of what the owner takes, because it's very lonely to be a CEO and that tip of the spear, right? There's a lot of heat that happens up there. Not everybody wants it, but there's a tremendous amount of people that want to be a part of it, also want to think like an entrepreneur and be a part of something bigger. And so I think that's perfectly fine. I've done it both ways, and I think both things are very exciting for people. And so just recognize the chapters that you're in and be a part of it, and continue to always think like an owner and operator, and great things will happen.
Is that a real word, entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur, yes.
It's not a word.
I heard Damon John say it the first time, and then I Googled it just to make sure, and I was like, oh my God, it is, because it's a great way to think about it. I talk to students all the time, and they're always like, I'll go to MBA classes or these business courses, and they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, just go do something. Find those things, surround yourself with great people, work in an organization that, has great values. If you can learn, grow, make an impact, and make some money, oh my God, it's checking every box. If you get most of those, great, good for you.
I had a guy, and I'll send you. He spent some time with us a few months back. He's probably my most successful friend in the fact that, like, he's kind of just got a real Midas touch in the VC world, and he was one of the first ones that we did. And I always want to see people's best advice, and it was something that he led by saying, this is probably not what you want to hear, and it's probably going to piss you off. But he said, never invest in yourself. And like he positioned it where it was like, what? He's like, yeah, go find someone who's already done the legwork, right? And then put money behind them, where you don't have to be a statistic on the other end. So this is kind of a more elevated version of that with the entrepreneur. And I think that when you have people that are in sales, that's you can't be like, you don't understand what it's like to be in this position. It's lonely as hell. I deal with stuff I never thought I could deal with, and I've kind of rode enough to where I'm not gonna just jump out of the boat. But that's
like Patrick Lencioni's got a great book, The Motive, and it really breaks it down. Do you want to be a CEO and a leader? Because you have servant leadership, and you're working for your team, and it's just at a whole nother level. So you got to decide what you really want.
Okay, final question, heavy question. 48 more laps, and you look back. What are we going to remember you for? What's the legacy play?
Well, I always say, if I can make a positive impact, create amazing memories, then I've really done something great out there. And so the third thing I've added to that is build relationships, really healthy ones. And I think that's the third thing I've added to the stool. So as I think about it, if I can check those three boxes, that's really it. It's going to be through my family, and hopefully the thousands of people that I've had a chance to connect with, or do business with, or mentor, or help them start their own business, or work with them, from that standpoint. And hopefully some of those dots will elevate, and that'll be my thing.
I actually have one more question. Sorry. Who do you like? Who's your, like, if you were to me, like, who is your person? Who's the person that you're like, dang, I really admire what they're doing, and I want to be a version of that? Who is that in the world of business?
Well, there's a lot. I do admire you, so I don't want you to. I appreciate your compliment there, but there's.
Well, that was not me fishing. I'm saying you've thrown some really big names out, whether it's Howard Schultz or Elon Musk. I mean, who's the person that you look for inspiration, and whether it's centralizing something or making something simpler? Who do you kind of obsess over and wait for their next move?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's probably not one that I'm tracking. I think I look at it as sort of slivers, And so I saw what Tony Hsieh built at Zappos, and unfortunately he passed away. But I was like, that was amazing. Watching what Bezos has done at Amazon and really continue to reinvent what that business is mind blowing. To watch what Elon's been able to do at Tesla, the Starbucks, the way they were able to decentralize culture and blow that out of the water, as well as brand globally, was amazing to me. The way that Southwest Airlines was able to set the bar in customer service, absolutely incredible to me. But also the way you watch Richard Branson reinvent what the Virgin brand is over and over and over again, mind-blowing. And so I look at business pieces of all of them. I thought what Sam did at Walmart was unbelievable as far as really building a fantastic business. And so I think studying all of those is kind of what I do for fun, trying to learn little bits and pieces from each of them as I think about it. But it's also exciting to when I go to these entrepreneur classes and I get, whether it's high school or college kids, and they're pitching their idea and you feel their energy, and it's like, it also tells me the future is very, very bright. There are entrepreneurs out there coming. If you turn off the news for a little bit and just really go and connect with human beings and realize that there are people out there working hard, trying to make an impact. You see these nonprofit organizations that are going out there to serve and make an impact. That tells me the future is bright, and that things can happen. So what are the little things that I can do to encourage it, to nurture it along the way, to nudge it? Those are the things that are exciting to me.
Dude, I could sit here with you all day. We normally have questions that I read off of, but this was, this was mind-blowing, and nothing about it other than just somebody who has an idea, creates a convenience, and runs with it, believes in themselves, and then whenever there's moments of humility, you stay true to yourself. And that's the whole, purpose of this podcast, is to just show that you're the same guy you were as a 13-year-old working at your mom's, hair salon on the steel drum playing Islands of Galveston. But on behalf of everybody that is a fan of you and your company,
you're awesome.
We're grateful for you. And if y'all don't follow him on LinkedIn, it truly is my favorite follow on LinkedIn. And you kind of see him and you just get pissed off. Like, of course he's a great painter, and of course he's got the greatest marriage. Of course his son is a massive success in Hollywood. I'm gonna just keep rowing myself and doing this. But
anybody
Jason,
can toss some paint on a canvas. You just gotta give Roger. You don't think that'll work?
It actually
Little Jackson
looks good.
Pollock.
Yeah, if I do it, it's like Jackson
there's
Pollock.
some space in here. I need to probably find a spot. Maybe I can go over there.
That's why I have so many things framed, as I know that I'm not going to paint. But thank you for being somebody I look up to and admire and love, and thanks for being a friend, and thanks for being on Rogers That today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This is incredible. I love that you continue to give back. And I will say the way that you're supporting the next generation and sponsoring all those scholarships and all that training for all these people to enter this incredible industry, that is priceless. That investment that I know that you're making out there is awesome. And I've already know some of the kids that are going through the program to work here with you and see what you're doing and be a part of it. It's awesome. So
thanks, man.
Thanks for doing that.
Thanks again. And before I forget, the last question, where do we go to shop for your stuff?
Yeah, go to vari.com, VARI.com. We'd love to help you in any way we can.
And they're also on social media, Instagram, everything. So, okay, well, Jason, thanks again. This has been great.
Rogers. Awesome day. Thank
Cheers.
you. Hi, I'm Jason McCann, co-founder and CEO of Vari, and that's how you sell without selling out. Rogers That.